everything is the title of our session. Come on in, have fun. And what I would say to everybody is you took the first step to winning, right? You're here and you're building your network and you're getting to know the people who are around you. For those folks who hire us in the federal government, this is the first step of knowing who you're working with. What are they like? What are they interested in? How do they participate? Do they show up in a session and get engaged, or are they here checking a box? As a small business owner, I used to go and look for who to hire based on what I saw in a meeting room. How engaged were you and how aware of your world were you? What was going on? Winning starts there, right? We're looking to see where we're at. So today we have an amazing panel. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves in just a second, but I'd like to thank our organizers. David, thank you so much. Ed, thank you so much. And everybody who's here for taking the time to attend. For those of us who have been founding members of ACT-IAC, this is my 11th year as a small business member at ACT-IAC. It really, really matters that this conference has grown this way. It makes a huge difference. It means that small business is important, and we are, right? What percentage of procurement in the federal government tends to go to small business? Do you know? What do you estimate? Overall, general?
30%.
30, 20%. And every agency is different, correct? I wish, Nancy. Can we have that conversation? 60 sounds great. So, one of the things that we've all talked about is what's the expectation if you get to have that contract? Right? When do you start winning? Rod, when does a win start?
A win starts at the beginning.
What's the beginning?
The beginning is face-to-face. When I first meet a contractor, that's when the whole process starts. Because, let's face it, anytime you meet somebody, you're making opinions, not only of myself, me, but I'm also forming opinions of you. Can I work with you? Can you satisfy my needs? And to be honest, the needs of the government tend to shift, but in view of sequestration of furloughs, of tight budgets and those kinds of things, I have to depend more and more on the contracting staff. I want to make sure it's a good fit. I want to make sure I'm going to get the value out of the contract that I need to get. So really, it starts at the beginning and the first handshake.
So Rod, let's introduce Rod Turk. Rod, tell these folks who you are.
Okay, 25 words or less. I am currently the Chief Information Security Officer at the Department of Commerce. I run all of the FSMA compliance. I have several projects in IT security space that I'm managing right now for the department. Department of Commerce has 14 other organizational units that we deal with, that we manage and work with. In prior lives, I was the Chief Information Security Officer at the Patent and Trademark Office. Before that, I did tours in CIO organizations at TSA, as well as the Office of Justice Programs. Now, you may have heard the word tours. That's a military term, right? For those of you folks that have done tours in the military. And I spent 26 years in the Navy from 2002 from 1976, that tells you how old I am, to 2002. So I have a pretty extensive military background as well. I was a supply officer in the Navy, and I won't bore you with all the details of that. But I've been working in the federal government, both in the Navy and as a civil servant for nigh on 36 years now.
Why did you do this panel?
Why did I do this panel? I had to ask me.
Okay.
So we're talking about relationships. We're talking about first impressions. I respect that a lot. So that was number one. But also, it's kind of interesting because as a security guy, my experience has been that I get the small businesses, right? That's kind of what's happened in my career in security. And the reason why I say it that way is because, the procurement folks, you know how procurement works. They've got certain amounts of large businesses that they give contracts to, but then they've got to make their numbers, right? They've got to get their percentages for small business. So they come to me and say, we'd like for you to hire a small business to do your security assessments, to do your security work, to do security projects. And my experience has been very, very positive with dealing with small businesses to do IT security.
So, Angel, thank you for joining us.
Sure,
And thank you. So, as we talk about that, in the worlds in which you live, you're getting more and more small businesses. What are you looking for in your small businesses?
Several things, but the key to me is how much value do you add to my organization above and beyond the spend. You come in and we have a scope of contracts and we have things that are expected. But how do you integrate with the other vendors supporting me? How do you look at my business and say, you know what? Or do you hear me in a conversation and I'm talking about the cloud and how we're looking at the cloud, and you go back and provide me some information or give me access to, let's say, your partners.
How much time a day do you get to do research?
Oh gosh, not often. I'm actually an avid reader, so I do probably a bit more than most, but that's mostly after hours, whatever after hours is.
And so anytime after hours are helped along, you know, one key trick a lot of the small business owners know, Andrew, we have this conversation, don't we? Sometimes you have to write for yourself. You got to think for your customers, help them find things that they can't get to because their days are jammed just like a lot of others. So you tell everybody what you do and why you're here.
Okay. I'm the Deputy CIO at the Office of Justice Programs. It's a component within the Department of Justice. I'm responsible for all facets of the IT shop, from applications, database, infrastructure, security, portfolio management, budget, the whole kit and caboodle. I've been in the government for quite a bit. I've served at, I've worked at the Department of Education, responsible for basically the grant systems, but part of the grant programs also. Prior to that, I worked at FDIC, and prior to that, I was at HUD. So I grew up as a programmer, so I know what it's like to be in the trenches, developing code, and I've been involved in all facets of IT pretty much in my career. Why I'm here, yes, I was invited, and I thought it was a good opportunity to at least share some of my experience as far as what I'm looking for, and anything I can provide that will help you and your businesses meet some of those that the government is trying.
Peggi Gill. So Peggi and I had a wonderful chat earlier. Peggi has, I think, some wonderful opinions on communications.
My name is Peggi Gill. I am the Chief of Publications and IT Operations in a division of the FDIC. I was at the Patent and Trademark Office for 10 years and basically was the manager of IT communications. So we had 3 unions over at the Patent and Trademark Office. We only have one at the FDIC. There are a lot of things, though, that are very similar in that we need those IT systems going so that people can do their work, right? I think that's true for everyone. And when I was at the Patent and Trademark Office, so the reason I'm here is Mr. Logan kept twisting my arm. We worked closely when we were at the Patent and Trademark Office. I was very involved in service level agreements and bringing, ITIL into the at least the thought process and operational level agreements, so that not only did you have a promise that you were going to deliver this, but we understood who had to back you behind those things. And I think Angel just recently, when he was talked about how those vendors get along, right? So if one is promising one thing, the other one has to fill it in behind them sometimes. It's not always the case, but so to have that understanding for the customer. So we worked a lot on those kind of processes and how things, just fell together. Bringing those processes over to the FDIC, we have I do publications and IT operations, so it's a lot more customer service specifically that I deal with now. But that customer service and the communication on what my customers really need and getting down to that is very key. So
My name is Kim Hayes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of the Ambit Group. We are a just under 25 million woman-owned, service-disabled, veteran-owned small. We're 99% prime contract. Have been since the day of our inception, and our first ever set-aside award was 4 years after we founded the company. Today, we're still about 50% full and open. So the request I had was, would you talk to us about priming? I said, oh, would I love to talk to you about small businesses priming. Would I love to be a part of that? I'm fortunate enough to have a great group and a great community that we work in. I mentioned IACT earlier. I'll give them a stump speech. How many of you are Industry Advisory Council partners? Fellows? Yeah? So for those new businesses here, the ones who are just getting to know this community, today ask us a question. Stop with me if you will. Let me tell you a little bit about the Fellows Program. It's one of the best things I think you can do to help grow your business and grow this community, and you get a lot of information and education. Okay, so today, what do you all think you're getting out of this panel? Why are you here? Why are you here? What do you want? Yes, ma'am.
Well, it's a customer service panel,
Okay.
right? And I want to know what I can do as someone that works for a small business to ensure that my client is happy.
Awesome. What's your role in your small business?
I'm an engagement manager.
I'm sorry?
An engagement
An
manager.
engagement manager, so keeping the client happy, making the progress go. Okay, so what makes good customer service? Let's start there. How do you define customer? What's a customer? So toss an answer out. Who's your customer?
Everyone.
Who's your customer?
Well, I have internal and external customers. So I have customers across, because I work on the corporate level, I have customers across the entire corporation. And primarily I'm there to provide, to be a resource to them, to support them in whatever their effort happens to be, whatever it is they're working towards. And I see the same thing with my external customers. They have certain goals. There are things that they are working towards achieving. And I, in many respects, act as a resource to them as well in my particular role. But I see them as the people that I provide a service to.
So as a small business, are your subcontractors your customer? Yeah?
Sure, your prime partner, I mean,
Your prime partner, your subcontractor? So, Angela, who are your customers?
I guess everyone like I said, that everyone I provide something to.
Something too. What do you expect for customer service?
To understand, and if I, from a customer service perspective, understand what it is that I'm trying to get out of the relationship, but also for me to understand what someone I'm engaging with is expecting from me.
So expectations, clear expectations, right? Hey, what do you expect for customer service?
Well, I expect that what you tell me you're going to do, you're going to do. If I understand that we're all human, I understand that machines break down, I understand all those things. If that happens, I expect you to be honest with me and let me know exactly what is going on. And, you know, on a regular basis, if you tell me you need 2 more weeks, I expect in that 2 weeks, I'm going to get it because I've understood the certain circumstances in that time. But if there's yet another delay, you know, those things really stick with you.
Follow through.
Absolutely.
Follow through. Clear expectations, communications, follow through. Rod.
I'm going to talk about the security world for a minute when it comes to IT security. Because for me, expectations are a little bit different in that realm, and here's why. Security in a lot of ways is like an insurance policy. People, functionals, people in business, people in government, they know they need security in the IT world. They don't want to pay a whole lot for it if they don't have to. They want to get it done. They want to make it effective. They want to make it work. But it's sometimes it can be an adversarial relationship when you have to tell somebody that in the security realm that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're not in compliance with FISMA, the Federal Information Security Management Act, those kinds of things. So when I look for a small business to come in and help me do security, there's several perspectives and several vectors that I'm really interested in. Number one, small business contractors are going to be my representative. Going out, talking to my functional customers And they're going to be doing security assessments, security audits, those kinds of things. I need somebody who not only is technically capable, but also must be socially capable as well, frankly. Because I cannot have an adversarial relationship with my functionals and get the job done. They need to be professional, they need to go in, they need to be able to represent me as the Chief Information Security Officer, and then be able to get that job done, get the documentation together to make the commitments that we need for information security. The other thing is that from a technical competency standpoint, I also need to know that those working for me are technically competent, that they have the certifications that they need to be able to do the job. And even over and above the certifications, they need to understand the government security world. Because there's things in the government security world that are different than out in industry, right? Different laws, different regulations that have to be conformed to. So there's really a special set of requirements for an IT security professional that I'm really looking for. Now, communications, those kinds of things, I think Kim is a wonderful example of having a broad knowledge as well as knowledge of the personnel within the industry. Because guess what? When that key person leaves on your contract, and that is somebody that's key to my performance in terms of FISMA and making sure that I can get the work done that I need to have done, I need to have the understanding and the confidence that my contractor can go out and find a replacement should somebody leave that's still technically competent. A lot of times that means a knowledge of the industry, knowledge of people. And, you know, contractors, and I fully understand, are not going to have a big bench. You just can't go pull somebody off the bench and bring them in. But you have to have the knowledge of the industry and knowledge of the people and the requirements of what I need to be able to bring somebody in and be able to make that work.
So I've heard several things. Yes, ma'am.
And I do this, but this is so close to me. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But this young lady, engagement manager, flexibility.
Yeah.
I have an install going on of new technology across 11 areas of the country. And when I asked for a status report, I don't care whether or not it was in the freaking SOW. I want a status report. I hate them, and they're doing a great job, but I hate them because I don't want to argue. If I need something to make me feel like we're getting what we want.
So can we stay there for just a second? It's interesting. Again, and I'm sorry, forgive me, how many small business owners? Owners, right? So we're responsible for our performance. Well, guess what? As you grow, do you get to touch those projects as much as you used to? You have to make sure that your behavior, that thing that you modeled your business after, we call it culture sometimes, it's culture definitely, but it's also work process, it's all those things, that gets cascaded to your teams and they know what to do. It's a big part of being a successful prime. Primes have a different responsibility, don't they? Now, I was told that part of my objective today was to talk about being a small business prime. Because as a prime, if I hear from you that you're getting frustrated on something as simple as a process or a report, we didn't even get to the quality of the work, did we? We're not even anywhere near that. How many of you have customer management or business development responsibilities? Okay. Is BD a dirty word? Seriously, I'll put it out there. Nancy, we've had this conversation a million times.
Sometimes it's a four-letter word, but.
Why is it a four-letter word, Nancy? Why is it a four-letter word?
Because in the enthusiasm of the moment, there are times, perhaps I've heard rarely, that a BD person might overpromise.
Oh, that never happens, Nina. No. Go ahead, yes ma'am.
Yeah, but you know, and I totally see where you're coming from. And it's one of the things that I struggle with all of the time is I want to keep my customer happy, but I also need to stay within scope. Correct. Right. So I think for me, you know, I approach my professional experience the same way I approach my personal life. It's the 80-20 rule, right? So, you know, a status report, yeah, that's not a big deal. And you're asking me, you know, to include like a deliverable that's going to take a month. But that wasn't in the scope, well then we have to have another discussion.
So one of the ways the panel plan that we started this conversation was, okay, the world of contracting is different than it was 10 years ago. We all agree with that, right? That's not not an arguable comment. It's different in a lot of ways. What's the level of attrition in the procurement officer ranks today? Do you guys know? Yeah, right? The last estimate I heard, please don't quote me, and Andrew, can you make me look this up? Last estimate I heard was somewhere around 60%. 60%. How do you get your work procured? Through a procurement office. How long is it taking for solicitations to get through these days?
Don't ask.
So I'll give you a perfect small business study, and I won't name the agency I refuse to do it. Quite some time ago, about 5.5 years, 6 years, we responded to an RFI. That led to several white papers, some other things. Okay, great. They all disappeared. About 18 months later, we get in our inbox a solicitation to which we're going to respond. 2.5 week turnaround, we're tracking it, we respond. 21 months later, I get a call on a Friday night from a contracting officer. Young woman is a GS10, and she says, at the time it was Shackelford, Miss Shackelford, yes? Could you be in the office on Monday? Sure. Where? Oh, we made this award. Hang on a minute. What award was that? We walked into a team in the program office who had had zero communication until a week prior to the award. What's the first thing that needs to happen at that point? What's the first thing we should do?
Yeah, well, that's the first thing. Be on time. I recommend 5 minutes early. And start developing that relationship. Because I will tell you, if I'm sitting in the chair and it took me 2 years to do a solicitation and an award, I'm probably sitting there going like this.
I want to revisit the plot.
And because I probably have, I don't know, 18 months, a year's worth of work that I need done today.
So let's talk about as a
Right.
small business. Do you still have your key personnel? Maybe. They sure were on the bench, were they? Rod, do you expect my key personnel to be there?
No, I don't. But let me talk about that for a minute. Let me just you know, from a business standpoint, from a small business standpoint, I would look at something like this as a tremendous opportunity. And here's why. Generally, from a government perspective, it takes a while to get a contract. But once you get the contract out there, you want to make it for a decent period of time. You want to put enough ceiling on it so that you can use it for a long time. And so, if you walk in as a small business and you hit a home run right from the get-go, chances are you're going to be adding more people fairly quickly. Now,
Yes, sir.
Depends on the situation, depends upon the contract, depends upon how things are written, it depends upon a lot of things. You know, the general counsel that's involved, the contracting officers, but you have an opportunity then, and that's where the business development piece comes in. Because, if I may, I'll tell you a little story. I used to be a contractor for a short period of time after I retired from the Navy. And I used to get phone calls, can you talk to your your boss down there? We'd like to add a couple more people to the contract. They're sitting out here, we need to get them down there, we need to get them billable. And I'm, like, really?
That's your problem.
Yeah, well, so I'm getting this from the home office, so it's like, I had a lot of problem with that, personally, because the need was not there. I hadn't developed any need to do that. My point is that if you go in, you show value, you respond, and you're solving problems for your customer, adding people will come.
That's that value-added component, though, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Problem solving, able to think with you. What happens in your world, Peggy?
Well, we talked about, a lot of different things. The flexibility certainly needs to be there. But, one thing that I count on my IT contract support is you're going to come in, you're the specialist. That's why we hire you. You have a specialty, you have a value that you're going to add. Improve us, I can't speak for everyone, but I will tell you that I will listen to you. Tell me how you can make this process better. You might have to dig a little deeper than you thought you were going to, because I thought I knew what I wanted, but I might not have realized there was some business process that was hanging me up somewhere that you could resolve for me. But you bring that value, so ask those questions and let me improve that.
So good small business primes are customer-centric, they're collaborative, they're communicative. Because collaborative and communicative can be two different things, can't they?
Yes.
They have value.
Add value, forward thinking.
Forward thinking. You just have a good list to start with.
Still very generic statement, but you know, are able to drive. And I've always looked for, how do you improve every year? And I put that in our solicitations. Is how do you take me from your from your base year into your second year, and you're delivering your change processes, you change delivery modes, still all within scope, but you're able to produce more. So I'm wondering, how do you improve your organization? How do you help my organization improve?
Awesome. And I'll add one as a business owner. Good small business primes invest in their people. You invest in your people. Training, education, improvement, development programs. You keep them if you invest in them. Yes, sir, Jeff.
And this is kind of tying to Ron's earlier discussion, which is, so we're in that event, time has passed, and let's just imagine that for your world, because I think that's a lot of the contracts that I end up seeing as well too, is that oftentimes some of these contracts require the contractor to step in and assume some level of authority on behalf of the Fed. There's kind of the interesting dilemma of some people can do that well, and then typically you've got that first rock star coming in. So how do you scale that in that moment where you know, you've got to bring in more people and you've got to be able to continue to do that way? And obviously some of it is in training and all this other stuff. Oftentimes it's kind of a challenge when we've got the business and we've got key people, but we've got this pent up need. And a lot of people have to carry a lot of authority as well. And I'm curious if there's any advice for small businesses that may have a staff that may not necessarily know and can empathize with all of the considerations that come with being a federal executive and what that really truly means down the ranks.
Well, let me take a shot at that. You know, I am very sensitive to the government contractor issue as it relates to authority, because I'm sending teams, generally of contractors, out to do assessments, right? Which means, you know, there's a authority adversarial relationship there to begin with when it comes to IT security, and a good federal manager will support his or her team. So that's important, because you get into issues very quickly when a contractor oversteps that authority issue. I've had that happen. But you still can step in as a Fed and say, listen, I've got to have this done, I've got to have it done this way, this is the way it has to work. If you've got a problem with them talking to the functionals, then we need to sit down and have a chat, because this is my world, it's the law that you have to do it this way. So yeah, I'm very sensitive to that. Now, I want to make another point. In the world of IT security, there are ethical issues that need to be addressed, that need to be maintained. For example, contractors that I hire typically have certifications. They're CISSPs, Certified Information Security System Professionals. CISSPs, right? Within that CISSP certification, there is an ethics requirement that says that if I see something, I report it, right? And I report it in accordance with proper, information security procedures. So therefore, it's incumbent upon that contractor, if they see something that needs to be addressed, that they in fact do document it and I expect them to do that.
Jeff, good? Yes, sir.
Sort of a topic shift, if it's all right. I'm curious to know your thoughts when it comes to small businesses and partnerships. And specifically, as a specific example we talked to, a small business prime with perhaps a lesser known small business subcontractor, or a small business prime with perhaps a more well-known small business and then a small business with perhaps a partnership with a large business.
So let me reframe that, see if we can get it, because we had a little bit of this conversation. So more and more of your procurements are going to small businesses. When you're evaluating and you see the different compositions of teams, if it's small, well-known, medium, small, large, yes, is that good? How do those evaluations play out for you? What are you processing and thinking when you see that?
At the end of the day, I'm still looking to meet the requirements I laid out in solicitation. Right? I don't care for the partnerships. My thing is you have to get the job done. I stated something in the solicitation. You've replied that you will meet these requirements. Tell me how. As far as the partnership, I'm expecting the practices manage that. I'm really not going to get into how you manage it. I'm expecting my friend, a little bit to what Rod was saying, and then your question is, I'm expecting my project managers to work directly with their counterparts on the contractor side, but my project managers would have the full authority required. So I'm not looking for a contractor to come in and just automatically try to be authoritative in my area. I'm working within the confines of the structure set up. If there's an issue, we raise that up the chain. But again, I have a requirement. I'm expecting the prime to work it out. I don't care how it gets worked out. I'm expecting it to be worked out.
I would say over the years, I was a contractor at one point and was shifted from contract to contract. What I'm looking for now as a federal employee is I want the people who can do the job. I don't care whether you're with a big group, a small group. You have to prove to me that you can do that job. And if you have that and you win the contract, then you have to continue to prove it. And you're going to earn my trust, and that's going to grow because I am going to talk to other people. I am going to tell someone else this person was really excellent or this group was really excellent and this is how they run their shop. I mean, those are really key, but I don't look at
So high performance, clear lines of authority, and working as a team, not bringing you into their managerial processes. Is that fair?
Yeah, can I just add something?
Sure.
I mentioned earlier to be able to reach into your partners and to add value. And again, I don't care who your partners are. So within that group of partnerships, to be able to reach in there and get your value, and within that group of partnership, they probably have other partners that they can reach out, which may be bigger.
I'll add as a small business prime. When we were under 14, and my team can tell you that our rule was always, if you can't write the work, if my team cannot write the work, if you do not have the skills in-house, we don't bid it. I'm not going to my partners to write my work for me so we can pass it through. Today, at under 25 million, we're actually building our own under 14 million incubator of protege companies. And that's my first question. Can you write your work? Can you do your work? I'm not carrying you. So large businesses as well, I think we deal with that. So that clarity, that knowing you've got the right people. You had a question, Andrew?
I just had one follow-up, and you may have just answered my question with partnerships and such, but how important is it to you and your staff to not have to, post-award, not have to teach the new contractor about the environment and the ins and outs? And also, how much does that weigh into your award decision?
I personally, and I'll just real quickly, I personally expect to have some of that information already in the solicitation. So every environment is different. So I'm not expecting you to know the bits and bytes. I'm expecting some level of homework from the vendor, and I'm expecting some level of growth. But I'm not expecting in our contract that we will train you how to be an expert in what you're already supposed to be trained in. I'm expecting, we're putting out a solicitation for an expertise. I'm expecting that expertise is going to come with it. And then we'll talk about our environment separately.
I'm not expecting you to know my culture. Hopefully I know my own culture, and we can work with you on that. But what I do expect is the ability to come in and do security stuff. I mean, it's out there. I mean, security is one of those things that everybody does. It's out in the industry. If you want to know what an assessment looks like, go look at the NIST website. It's
Don't
there.
make me teach you.
Yeah, right, and so if they come in and don't know how to spell NIST, I got a problem.
David, you have a question?
Yeah, most of our business is referral based. People saying good things about what we do. And I'd be curious to hear examples of when a small business was working with one of you. You know, at what point did you start saying, these guys are great, you got to take a look at them?
So you're looking for a time
An
frame?
example, what did they do to make you feel?
What kinds of things spurred small business referrals? Does that work?
Oh, well, you know,
It's hard to be more.
in my world, it's pretty easy. I took over at the Patent and Trademark Office. This is public knowledge. We had material weakness in IT security, significant deficiency, material weakness in the financial statements, significant deficiency from the IG perspective. Serious problem. By the end of the day, we had removed the material weakness, significant deficiency was gone. We have reduced the plan of action milestones on the security side from, I don't know, 15,000 down to, when I left, it was about 275. So, I mean, that speaks for itself. And those are the kind of things that, you know, somebody helps me with that, I'm willing to, you know, to give a referral. Now, I am also sensitive to the fact that from a government standpoint, I'm very careful about showing favoritism to any one contractor. So I'm very sensitive to that. However, I've had numbers of companies send me requests for, what do they call that, prior
Past performance.
past performance. You know,
Does that annoy you guys?
does that annoy me? No, not at all. That's a cost of doing business. I mean, hey, if somebody has done good for me, it's my, from my standpoint, moral and ethically responsible for me to provide them a good.
And David, I'll give you on our side, a lot of times, because we do crime so much, we'll get a call from a government customer that says, hey, I met this firm in the process of doing work with my friend X at this agency. I like what I saw. And what we'll say is, look, we're happy to do our market research. Now, I don't know that a lot of small businesses do that. I keep the contracts officer on staff, that's his job, because we try and keep the lines very clean. So if I get a special request, I'll actually go out and do market research and analysis and make sure that I can prove and demonstrate that I've got the right type of solution coming in. We're trying to protect ourselves and our customers in that process. And I tell you what, Andrew second, and Brian, you had a question.
First, I think everybody should give Angel a round of applause for those socks.
You're awesome.
They are.
If I had known
I
it wasn't,
wish I was so bold, to be honest.
if I had known there wasn't going to be a table here, I didn't think there was going to be a table. So
I wasn't expecting to be hiding behind something.
Yeah.
But my question, I'm the CEO of Government CIO, Bill Magazine, and also have a consulting practice, and this is skewed towards the consulting practice. Luckily, we haven't run into this, but Peggy mentioned before, you get a project manager who says, we're running into a deadline, we're going to be able to, we need 2 more weeks. 2 weeks come up, they miss it, they screw the pooch. What can that company do to regain your trust after they've screwed the pooch?
give me the report.
I always look at the importance of every project, right? Okay, so I missed the status report. Okay, how important was it? Does the company contractor still have some level of integrity, right? If I'm in the middle of a very important project, and there's been a commitment by the company to deliver, and there are issues is not just going to come out at the last days. You're going to know some of these things. If you really know your job, you're going to know the issue before. So come up and be, let's talk about that problem. Let's talk about how we can get through it together. So I'm not one to just flat out, you missed the status report. You missed this thing, but I'm not expecting that to be part of the culture.
Or a behavioral pattern.
It should not be.
And we've got to wrap up at the end. Andrew, please.
Sure.
Things change over the course of projects all the time. And I've got to think that throughout all this comes into play with respect to ethically treatment, contacts in the market. What are you looking for and how have you seen that effectively handled most when things change in your budget or your mission? You just need to really course correct and pivot in a different direction. In terms of working with your partners. What have you found?
So if our budget is changing, or?
What are the mission changes?
So you're under contract, the world you're in starts to change,
Right.
how do you course correct?
Right.
In progress, course corrections.
Well, and, you know, I know that you've all heard this 1,000 times, and we were talking about it before, that constant communication. Because there's always, you know, even going back to the other question, there's always something you can add. Okay, I wasn't able to follow through with this one thing because it had all kinds of issues, you know, whatever it was. It could be human resources, it could be all kinds of things. But if you've worked with me, you know more about my business now, and you have to have seen something I could improve, and I could improve it with less cost, right? Your objective is not to make less money by any means, but you can do more in some areas, maybe not with this one specific line. But I've had small businesses be able to tell me, you know, if you shifted this software, it would work better with that vendor, right? I mean, it's something so simple. It's not a part of your contract. I could go out and buy that software and suddenly I can work better with you. It's easier for you, it's easier for me, and in long term, we've come up with a solution. And I'm going to respect that, and I'm going to remember that.
And particularly in the firm fixed price world. I think most of your primes, I'm looking for partners who are helping us find cost efficiencies. And I know customers of all kinds are saying, look, it's firm fixed price, I get it. It doesn't need to be this. Let's think through it. How do we do this together? How do we do it together? So, wrapping up, any big bullets for the panel, any big rocks we don't want to miss, any big questions before we can let them go? Yes, sir.
I have a quick two-parter. You mentioned continuous improvement over year with contract. I think it's a great idea, but don't you have to kind of in the contract baseline what the current is, and there can be a real tangible conversation versus kind of talking about. So that's one part. And then next is building that customer relationship with customers you're looking to get. How do we understand your requirements without, you know, following and tracking? Building that customer to kind of forecast everything. So those are the two things I want to bring up.
So let me see if I can go back. So if you're kind of coming into the market as a small business, how do you get that baseline of what the customers need?
Yeah, I know what my current customers need, but if I'm looking at a new customer and I don't have a relationship and I want to build that and I don't want to go to the small business office and I want to talk, I found it much better to talk to the end customer because they know exactly what they need, and sometimes it's not explicit in the SOW.
So is it an access question as well as an information question?
Yes, sure.
I'm talk to the first question.
I know you would talk first.
Right. So yes, I put it in statement of words. This is, I want to see some metrics on first year, and I would put something to the effect, and I haven't fixed it. I want to see improvements, and those negotiations would occur in subsequent periods. Prior to getting to the first option year, we would have a discussion. So you've set these metrics up for the first year, we agree. Now, let's have a discussion on how you're going to take that into the option year. And because obviously there will have to be some level of negotiation on how those metrics are going to improve.
I'll add from a business perspective, if you're just starting up, and I know a lot of these people in this room from that, your large businesses are an adjunct of your sales team. And no one wants to have that conversation. Oh, if I go with this large business, they're going to take advantage of me, or I'm never going to see work. Yeah, half the time you're not going to see work. Let's just be blunt. But the other thing that's going to happen is you're going to get to know people, and they're going to learn what value you can bring. They have a much larger footprint than you are, and they're going to bring you into those kinds of conversations, and then you can earn your right to be there. That seems a little odd to say it that way, but you know, it's a network. Use all your nodes. Use all your nodes. Anything else for the day? Thank you so much for taking your time. You guys are busy, and this takes time. We appreciate it very, very much that you came out to small businesses today. Much appreciated. And thank all of you guys for taking the time to stop in and be a part of this. Have fun today. If we can help it out, please just let us know.